Hello, my name is Olurotimi Osha. I like talking about American presidents, and today is March the 6th, 2026. It's been about a week since America uh, uh, decapitated the Iranian leadership, including the assassination of uh, the supreme leader of the Iranian Islamic Republic. Uh, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and other military leaders. And of course, that precipitated the current war that America is involved in with Iran. Uh, so, since this is a time of war, I thought it was just appropriate to talk about American uh, presidents who have served in the military and those presidents who have been generals. We've had many generals. Of course, the most recurrent profession of American presidents has been lawyer, over 70%, but apparently about 67% of our presidents have also served in the United States military. So 31 out of our 46 presidents have served in the United States military in some capacity or the other. Not all of them have seen combat. I'll probably do another video just detailing those that have seen combat, but 31 of our US presidents have served in the military in one capacity or the other, and 12 of those 31 have been generals. 12 of them have been generals. Now, of those 31 who served in the military, 16 of them were in the army. They were in the service they were in is the army, while the others were in the navy. We haven't had a president who was in the Air Force. The Air Force was newly created with the reorganization of the military department in 1947 at the end of the Second World War under President Harry Truman through the National Security Act, which created the Department of Defense. And that was so the U.S. Air Force was carved out of the U.S. Army. So the arms of service that we have are, we have the U.S. Army, which is the oldest. Then we have the U.S. Navy, the second oldest. The Navy, it's the Navy and Marines, actually, the U.S. Navy and Marines. There's been this historic pushback by the Marines to be a department on its own, but they haven't had, no luck so far. So it's the Navy and Marines. They're in one department together. They're under the Department of the Navy. So it's not called the Department of the Navy and Marines. The Marines and the Navy are both under the Department of the Navy, and we have the United States Air Force. So and there are other intelligence agencies within the U.S. military as well. Uh, there's a national security agency. We actually have many intelligence agencies. That's what most people are familiar with, just the CIA from movies, right? The CIA. But we have other intelligence agencies which are within the United States military. So there are all sorts of intelligence agencies that have various mandates. They have various respective mandates. What their functions are. In any event, none of our presidents. Well, I'm not going to get into that, but our presidents, 12 of those presidents who served in the military have been generals, right? So that's what I'm going to discuss now. I'm going to try and make this video quick. So obviously we like military service, right? So it was a big deal in more recent times in the 20th century, post 1980. We've had um, you know less presidents who've served in the military. Since George Bush, no president has served in the military. That's President Barack Obama never served in the military. Bill Clinton never served in the military. I mentioned George H.W. Bush, right? Interestingly, H.W. Bush was the youngest. I don't know if he still is, if he still has a record, but as of the time that he served, President H.W. Bush, our 41st president, was the youngest aviator in the U.S. Navy. At 20 years old, he was the youngest ever aviator in the U.S. Navy, and he was a hero. He actually saw combat. He narrowly escaped death, and he saw his peers, his colleagues, his comrades shot down in action, killed in action, and so he barely escaped death. So he was actually a war hero. He doesn't tout it. Interestingly, he doesn't tout it, and he didn't use it against Bill Clinton. He went on to become a CIA director. He's the only president who's been a CIA director, and that's probably a reason why we see that he got involved in clandestine funneling of funds in the Iran Contra affair, and of course later on in the CIA's funneling of funds to the Iraqis to fight Iran, which interestingly, not just the United States government. It wasn't just the United States government that was financially and technologically supporting Iraq against Iran, but the Soviet Union as well. So Iraq was backed by two two of the superpowers, that's the US and USSR, to just stay in the fight, and they still couldn't defeat Iran. So this went on for 8 years. So you can see Iranian government, the Islamic government is battle tested. They're resilient, and so they proved to be in it for the long haul against Saddam Hussein, and this ended up impoverishing Iraq, and that's why Saddam Hussein went on to invade Kuwait, and it meant that America ended up destroying Iraq through in the Gulf War, and subsequently in the Iraqi invasion under number 43 George W. Bush, and capturing Saddam Hussein, who was eventually executed by a kangaroo court organized by his own people. So Iran prevailed in that outcome. Let's see how how it fares in this current conflict between with the United States, who's partnering with Israel. I'm not a betting man, but I don't really want to report much on that since there's so much conflicting information, misinformation going on this age of disinformation and information. I don't know if that's intentional propaganda, if they're waging a propaganda war as well. But in any event, let me get to it and list our 12 United States uh, presidents who served as generals in the U.S. armies. Our very first president, George Washington, was the commander in chief of the Continental Army, who was a general. And of course, now after him was Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was a major general in the War of 1812 against the British. Andrew Jackson was a major general. And after Andrew Jackson was Ulysses, sorry, no, you can see Ulysses S. Grant is one of my favorite American presidents, so I'm very eager to get to him. But after Andrew Jackson was William Henry Harrison, who had the shortest term as president, dying after just 1 month in office. He supposedly died. He supposedly died from pneumonia after giving the longest presidential inaugural speech ever. It was an excellent speech. So William Henry Harrison was a major general. Was a major general. I think representing the Kentucky militia, but he was a major general. And then after him was Zachary Taylor. Um, William Henry Harrison probably was from Indiana, right? And Zachary Taylor probably represented the Kentucky militia. Zachary Taylor was a major general as well. Zachary Taylor was a major general. After Zachary Taylor was President Franklin Pierce. Franklin Pierce was a major general. After Franklin Pierce was after Franklin Pierce was, of course, Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson was a brigadier general. Um, Many people don't mention this. They don't realize Andrew Johnson had actually been a brigadier general. People normally, call him derisively a tailor and an alcoholic because on his inauguration as vice president, he was notably he was drunk. But Andrew Johnson was a brigadier general. After Andrew Johnson, our 18th president, Ulysses S. Grant, was general of the army. Of course, he won the uh, the Civil War, preserving the Union and conquering the Confederates. So he was general of the army, right? That was like the highest rank that a United States general could have. So after him, by the way, posthumously, I think in the 1970s, maybe in 1976, um, George Washington was awarded General of the Armies of the United States. He's the only one who's been awarded that title. So no, but so that's the highest. So we've always our politicians, our citizens have always wanted to give George Washington some kind of unique position in history that no one could rival, right? So basically beatifying him, right, canonizing him in a way that no other presidents could match because of his sacrifices, his personal sacrifices to the nation, because he could have made himself a king. Uh, his soldiers wanted to, they mutinied and they wanted to actually make him dictator. He refused, and when he had, his two terms, he set the precedent by by retiring, and not having life tenure, even though he had many acolytes and supporters, even in government, who were advocating for him to have some kind of life tenure, including Alexander Hamilton, by the way. Um, so he was a self-deprecating figure, and he put America's national interests, uh, you know, uh, above his own self-aggrandizement. So uh, that's George Washington. He was awarded the title of General of the Armies of the United States, and again, in terms of elections, he's the only president to have ever been elected unanimously, right? He's the only American president ever to have been elected unanimously. So, after Ulysses S. Grant, who was general of the army, there was Rutherford B. Hayes. Rutherford B. Hayes was a major general by brevet. A brevet, brevet means they're promoted to that senior rank, but without the pay. So they have the function, the office, the title, but they weren't promoted with the pay. They weren't given the full pay of that senior rank. So Rutherford B. Hayes was a brevet uh, major general. Rutherford B. Hayes also is one of our presidents who actually went to Harvard Law School. He graduated from Harvard Law School, was a lawyer. So after Rutherford B. Hayes was James Garfield. James A. Garfield was a major general as well. After James Garfield was, when he was assassinated by the lunatic Charles Guiteau, who was a lawyer, and his vice president succeeded him, and that's Chester A. Arthur. Chester A. Arthur was actually a brigadier general. He was a lawyer. He was very brilliant, and he was also quartermaster general of New York. So Chester A. Arthur was a brigadier general. Many of these people served, during the Civil War, right? So we have this series of, generals who served in the Civil War. The earlier ones served in the Mexican American War. Many of the presidents who rose to be generals had actually also seen action in the Mexican-American War, like Ulysses Grant, right? So they had their first experience of war during the Mexican-American War. So after Chester A. Arthur was Benjamin Harrison. Benjamin Harrison was a brigadier general by brevet as well. He was actually a war hero. Benjamin Harrison. He hated war. He had nothing good to, he didn't glorify war at all. So that's Benjamin Harrison. Of course, Benjamin Harrison was also the grandson of William Henry Harrison, and his grandfather had been, of course, a major general as well and a war hero. They called him, his nickname was Tippecanoe. Tippecanoe. That's William Henry Harrison, who also had the shortest term as president, just 1 month, even though he had the longest speech, inaugural speech of an American president. Now, after Benjamin Harrison, I'm talking about generals, right? After Benjamin Harrison, the next person to be a general, we've only had 12. After Benjamin Harrison was, oh, I think that's it. Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was a general of the army, and of course he was commander of the supreme commander of the Expeditionary Allied Forces in the Second World War. So Dwight D. Eisenhower was a 5-star general. He's the only general I think he's only a general who's ever been a 5-star general, which is interesting because he never saw combat in his career and he barely graduated from West Point. He went to West Point. He wasn't a great student. In fact, his examiner did not want to, graduated him on condition that he didn't serve in the military. He didn't want to graduate him. But Eisenhower insisted. So even though Eisenhower, when he, graduated from West Point, he was eager to see combat. He never saw combat throughout his career until the Second World War, when he was actually the supreme commander. So when he directed one of the major operations, was it it wasn't the Normandy operation he directed. There was one before it. It happened the year before. But he never saw combat. He had actually been like chief of staff to various generals, including, I think he was chief of staff to at least 2 5-star generals, or almost 3. But let me stop this video here. So Dwight D. Eisenhower was our last general, and I will stop this video here and I will discuss American presidents further. My name is Olurotimi Osha, and I'll keep you posted. Thank you.